Hey folks, welcome back. Thanks again for joining us. We got a lot to get through today, and it's kind of gonna speak for itself. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I think it's cool. There are a lot of interesting captures. I think one in total was my own. Everything else is footage and things I found in footage. Toward the middle end, I feature a video that Brown Dwarf captured here last week in LA. And it seems like it could be a TR3B type situation. It's tough to call, but it's really cool. And yeah, so anyway, check this presentation out. Please feel free to comment and share it with people you think might enjoy it. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks. All right, folks. So this looks to me like a Tic Tac, and I'm pausing it here because look underneath it and you see that telltale pixelation. Um, I'm not saying it's a Tic Tac. I'm just saying it looks just like it. You see these fighter jets pass in front of it, and this thing's actually hovering. It's not moving. I know it looks like it's moving, but it's not. And then here it seems to split into two. Yeah, and so we'll check this out. I mean, these two jets are doing maneuvers, and this thing is just out there in the distance, hovering. And you can see, in contrast with the cloud coverage, it's not moving. Well, I mean, if it is moving, it's not moving much, I guess, is what I should say. That's what it just seems like it's basically stationary. And look, so it's over here first, and then it's like I said, it generally doesn't move. The camera pans and the fighter jets move. I mean, maybe this is prosaic and explainable, but it doesn't have any obvious sign of lift or propulsion or stabilization, and you'd presume that with military craft in the air, it's closed off airspace. The other thing too that's worth the time is this notion of triangulation and not having two cameras. Like, look, we're going to scrub through this a bit, and you can see that these planes are in between the camera and that subject. And it's only one camera. You don't need triangulation to determine which is closer and which is further. You might need it to determine relative distance, but you don't need it to determine that this thing is on the other side of the aircraft, and as opposed to something floating around right in front of the camera, which is what people seem to think about these things. Okay, so that's it for this thing, which is what I'm calling the Tic Tac for now. Uh, Moving on to another pretty cool wingsuit video, and this is the channel that I found this on, and I like it. It's interesting. Check this out. We're going to run through it once, and then I'll point out a few things. All right, so we're going to start out here, which is obviously the very beginning of this footage. And now focus on the top right third of the screen there. We're going to zoom in here just to show you that this thing goes behind the horizontal stabilizer on the tail there. I mean, without question, that's behind it. Yeah, and now we're going to freeze this 1 second here because we see this look all the time. I don't know what it is, but it has these two little things jutting out from the sides, and that's so consistent. All right, so now we're going to move on to this section of the video footage. I'm going to watch it through a couple times, and then I'll point something out to you. A lot of these things are pretty easy to see once you sort of, gear your eye towards it. So you might have seen this already, but check this out. So the plane is right there. And then a moment or two later, this orb shows up. And then as this fellow moves and the camera moves, the orb is over here on the right side. And then, yeah, and then we take a look at it and get a little closer, and then you see it doing very orby things. I mean, we know it's not the airplane because we've identified that separately, and it does not appear to be a wingsuiter. And again, it's changing shape, it's hovering, it's doing things that are very orb-like. Uh, and speaking of the changing shape thing, I'm going to point this out too. And I don't know really what to make of this, but this here, I'm going to pause it. And so, what are the odds of this thing just turning into a perfect triangle? I don't know, but we're going to revisit this shape a little later in this presentation. Yeah, well, there you go. And so, Wingsuiting with Ted, check out his channel, and his videos they're great because they're pretty short. I mean, look, check these out. They're all like 2.5 minutes, and you can see I just watched one, that top one. I didn't even watch the two underneath it, and I showed you, what I saw in it, and that was literally just like the first probably 30 seconds of the video. So yeah, check out his channel. All right, so next up we have another fighter jet, and this thing popping in for one frame. It's not a lot to work with, but it shows up and then it takes off, and it's not evident what it is, but whatever it is, it seems to be moving exceptionally fast. And so we're going to look at it in real speed, but before we do, because it's so fast, I'm just going to point it out. This is real distance, and there's the one frame, and here it is in real speed. Okay, so obviously these things are really, really tough to see in real speed, but I don't think that's an accident. I mean, it's probably for a reason. And also, in a way, it's irrelevant that they're tough to see. The fact is that they're there. And, you know, just because they're difficult to discern doesn't give us the right to ignore them or deny them. I also acknowledge that these things might be off putting to some, but the fact is, there are a lot of things in this world that are off putting. It doesn't relieve us of the obligation to investigate them. All right, at any rate, this is an interesting one because I think this falls into that whole category of rods, which, has always been interesting to me, but yeah, check it out. I periodically mention in these presentations that when we record insects like, butterflies and dragonflies and beetles or whatever, they behave that way and look that way. This thing doesn't look or behave like those things. This thing looks and behaves like its own thing. Well, I mean, whatever that is. It is funny though. I did a little research on the rod thing because I've never really been super well educated on it, and I found um, that it seems like Wikipedia has completely just written this off and dismissed it. And it doesn't surprise me given the whole gorilla skeptic situation. But I went to their citations and I read their source materials, and it's a bunch of sort of conclusionary, dismissive nonsense. Anyway, that's that. Here's an SR-71 Blackbird, a Lockheed Martin jet. And this is paused so you can see all of these little things around this plane. But the actual footage, which you'll see in real time momentarily, is only 1.3 seconds. And all of this occurs during that 1.3 seconds. Obviously, I don't know what these things are, but you know, it's hard not to think of Foo Fighters and that concept when you see a plane like this and then you see, you know, something like this going on around it. Um, yep. All right, here's another one of these where it pops up and it's in one frame and you don't have a ton to work with, but it's there. And when you see this going down in real time, it's like it's like a flash. Um, and that's obviously is slow, but when you see it at real speed, then you just kind of feel like, yeah, there's something else operating around here. Like this. Look at this. I mean, come on. Are we really pretending like we still know everything and have all the answers? Or all of these things, camera artifacts? I mean, it seems to me like at some point we just have to kind of look in the mirror and be like, okay, uh, let's stop kidding ourselves, you know? Okay, so at this point, we're going to play Brown Dwarf's Capture real time, real audio. Check this out.
Look at that. Whoa.
All right, so that was obviously real speed with actual audio from Brown Dwarf, right? And I don't know if you noticed, but whatever he captured didn't really make much sound. There was no, roaring jet engines going over his head. And I'm pointing that out because that thing was moving. That thing was going really, really fast. But I'm featuring this because it's interesting, right? So it looks like it could be a TR3B. And I mentioned early on in this presentation that the concept of triangles was going to be revisited. And this is why. This is in 3 frames, and I'll show you all 3 and where it came from. But this to me looks like what Brown Dwarf captured. The two notable differences are obviously one, this is during the day, and number two, this thing is hovering. Now you can't see it here, obviously I'll have to show it to you, but that triangle is in this footage. So check this out. So this is paused. Ignore that red square though, and check this out here. See those two lights? They're fixed in the sky. They're not moving. That's what we're focusing on. I know there's a lot of debris and nonsense, but don't worry about it. Just look at those two lights and focus on them. They don't move. They're up there, but they're not moving. And as this propulsion source nears the ground and everything starts getting kicked up, this thing starts to change. And as it goes down further, the lights go away and it turns into this. And we'll take another look at that progression. But while we're looking at it, I'll tell you, I don't know what this thing is, but it seemed to be cloaking as something else. And then for a split second, 3 frames to be specific, it seems to show itself to have absolute structure and symmetry. I mean, if you want to talk unsettling, then there's this. And if it's advanced, human slash government tech, then it's pretty cool. All right, folks, there you go. A pretty wide range of things, but I think it's some pretty cool stuff. The Tic Tac situation in the beginning, the triangle craft at the end, brown dwarfs, as well as the one I saw in somebody else's footage, which was sort of happenstance. Obviously, that video was about the booster coming down. Had nothing to do with anything. It's just I spotted those two lights and then I tracked them and they morphed into, a triangle craft for 3 total frames. So I don't know what to make of it. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Get in the comments, let us know what you think, and talk to you on the next one. Thank you.